we'll begin the first exercise.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We would appreciate if you can open your videos and show your lovely faces rather than the names. Thank you. It's good to see faces. We appreciate that. And I know all our speakers, facilitators really appreciate when they feel like they are talking to you guys directly rather than the names. So before we start with today's topic, just a little information about what we have in the rest of the month of October. So we have a workshop coming up this Saturday, Mind Care. If you have noticed, we kind of chose all the topics for this month for Thursday talks, which are related with health, and the workshop is also kind of catering to the same subject. So if you have watched the earlier Thursday talks, you will see a gradual buildup of the information. If you didn't have a chance to join us, we encourage you to listen to our recordings. So you can take the benefit how all the information is given and it's built up. On November 7th, next month, we are starting a 7-day meditation course, Reviving the Higher Self. The timings are in the evening from 6:30 to 8. And if you have registered, very good. If you haven't, please go ahead and register on our website. Besides that, Manhattan Center offers Power Boost meditation once a day at noon time from Monday to Friday. We also encourage you to take the benefit of a live meditation. So today's topic is meditation as medication. And our speaker is Sister Judy Rodgers. And without further ado, I'm going to invite her to share her thoughts on today's topic.
Who came up with this clever topic, meditation as medication? Was it you, Anita?
I'm sorry? Say that
Who
again?
came up with this clever topic?
It wasn't me. I won't take that credit, but I really like that.
It's very clever.
Yeah. Last week we had power of, the silence, healing power of silence.
Mhm.
And now we are building up to meditation. And so.
Okay. All right then, meditation as medication. So let's start by thinking about what is health, right? If we're going to talk about meditation and medication, let's start with understanding what really is health. And I'm going to suggest that it's a kind of wholeness and vitality. Yeah? You just feel full, you feel you have a lot of energy, that kind of a state. We could go into more medical detail, but just in general, we feel whole, we feel healthy. And this is true of both the body and the spirit, right? So there's two aspects to us. There's the physical self, and then there is the inner self. So when the physical self isn't well, the inner self talks about it to everybody, right? My body doesn't feel well, my leg hurts, I have a headache, whatever. So there is the inner self commenting on this state of the outer self. Now, something we know about the body and the soul is that actually wholeness is our natural state, and that both naturally heal themselves, right? What happens if you accidentally smash your finger in a drawer or in the car door? What happens immediately, right? The body starts working to fix the little the thing that's happened. The bruise starts sending blood, starts repairing immediately. Now, if you give yourself space, you take your finger and you hold it in your other hand and you talk to your finger, I'm so sorry what I did to you, and you give it a space, you might put some cold on it and you elevate it, etc. The finger will heal itself. But what happens if you do the same thing again? Have you ever done that where you already had something that was fragile and you hurt it again? So if you did that again, so first time you did it in the car door, second time you did it in a drawer, third time somebody accidentally bumps into you or drops a book on your finger, you're going, because the finger is trying to heal, but it can't heal because you're continuing to give it, you're re-injuring it, and you're not giving it space to heal. It doesn't actually need much. It just needs space to heal. Now, it's the same thing with the spirit. So the spirit naturally heals itself, naturally makes itself whole. We call this resilient, don't we? And actually, there's a test. There is a resilience diagnostic that I studied some years ago. And guess what the percentage is of people who are naturally resilient? Now let me explain what this means. A naturally resilient person doesn't mean that they don't ever have bad days. It means when they have a bad thing happen to them, they get knocked down, but then they come back. Maybe sadder and wiser. They may not look exactly like they looked before, but they come back. Guess what that percentage is? You can put it in the chat. What percentage of people are resilient? What do you think? Because some people, don't get well very easily. Anybody have a guess? 10, okay. 5%, is that what that says? Yep, 5%. 5, okay, Noni, yep. 75, Laurie. 90, okay. 25, you guys are all over the map. All right, so let's talk about it. Actually, the number's around 80% of people are considered to be resilient, which means that though they may have something really, really hard happen to them, something that breaks their heart or breaks their spirit or tears them up or brings great sorrow, given the space to heal, they will come back. And actually, they will come back with greater wisdom, greater insight. I'm digressing a little, but in trauma communities, they always consider those people to be the best healers for the community, better than the professionals who come in, right? So if something big happens in a community, they do bring the professionals in, but it's the ones who've been through it themselves before that the people who've been harmed actually gravitate to. So those people turn out to be really important. So 80% of people, though they go through something that's harmful to the spirit, are resilient and get well. What do they need in order to do that? Well, they need space. They need some time. They need understanding. They may need no pressure. They may need to be able to just make choices about what they do with their time. It's kind of like the finger example. Given space and time, the spirit will begin to bring itself back to wholeness. But what do we tend to do? We don't give ourselves very much space and time, do we? I mean, I don't know, maybe some of you do, but most of the people I know are so tightly scheduled. They've got so much they're responsible for, and they have such a script going on inside about what they have to do that they don't actually give themselves much space. So if they get a spiritual injury, they have trouble recovering. So what's a spiritual injury? Well, you could say that fear is a spiritual injury. If something happened to you that made you very afraid, made you feel unsafe, you might have a spiritual injury. Depression, it's a spiritual malady, right? Instead of injury, let's call it a malady or an illness, spiritual illness. So depression. Sadness, something sad happened. It can be something that other people don't kind of get, like maybe you lost a pet, or maybe you moved away from your hometown and you don't feel you fit in, or whatever. Loneliness is a spiritual malady. Worry is a spiritual malady, and some of these things come from a specific event in our lives, but some of these things come because we're picking it up from the atmosphere. We've caught it, kind of like we've caught a virus, right? You can catch fear, like you can catch COVID. You can catch sadness. Do you ever find yourself feeling unaccountably sad? You don't know what happened. Somehow your heart went to a little sad place. Have you ever had that happen? When you can't put your finger on it. It's not like some specific thing happened, but you found that you're carrying this feeling inside. So one way to think about those inner conditions is to think of them that they are a kind of spiritual illness. And just like with the finger, if you keep reharming yourself, then the spirit can't become whole again. So what does that mean? Well, if you have around you people who are aggressive or unkind or volatile or angry or hurtful, and this can be people you live with, this can be people you work with, you are re-exposing yourself to the thing that made you sick, right? Or to a similar thing to what made you sick. So if you are already, let's say you're suffering from low self-esteem, you're not feeling very good about yourself for whatever reason, and you hang out with people who are critical, who kind of tear you down. Now, how is the soul going to heal? Just like how's the finger going to heal when you keep smashing it in the drawer, right? It needs space, it needs time. So I think there's probably 4 steps to this business of spiritual remedies for spiritual maladies. I've left the medication rhyming. I've now gone into maladies and remedies, but you get the drift there. We're in the same conversation. So first, you have to be able to step away. And that's what your meditation practice does at the most simple. Even if you just started meditating and you're doing some kind of simple mindfulness practice, what you're doing is you're stepping away, right? You're sitting quietly, you're going for a walk, you're journaling, whatever your practice initially is. And when you do that, suddenly the observer part of you becomes awake. And you see your inner self. You say, wait a minute, I'm really hurting here. You know, if you're in it all the time, you cannot notice that you're hurting. You have to step away to even notice. Because if you're used to it, if you're just used to being, torn apart, cut down, insulted, if you live with someone who does that, or you work with someone who does that, makes these left-handed compliments, as they call them, then you might not even notice. So the first thing is that you get a practice going that allows you to step back and look at yourself. And when you look at yourself, you can't look at yourself with critical eyes. Right? You have to look at yourself with love, with a lot of self-love. You have to be your own advocate. Don't you join the critics. So when you step away, in your meditation practice, you look at yourself and you say, yeah, I'm hurting here. I'm sad, or I'm worried, or I spend too much time feeling anxious, or checking my phone, or checking behind me on the street, or whatever. So first you have to notice. That's always the first step, right? No matter what we talk about any night, which always starts with recognition. You have to notice. And in order to recognize, you need some kind of practice. So that's the first thing. Now, when you notice, when you recognize that that's what's going on, then actually the healing can begin right there. Because this state of wholeness is your natural state. The state of worry isn't your natural state. Even if you were born into a worried family and you had worried parents, right? That's still not your natural state. It's an acquired state. Your natural state is peace. As a spirit, your natural state is peace. That's who you were originally. And that's what the spirit wants to return to. So if you have a lot of craziness going on in your life, you have worry or fear or anxiety or sadness or whatever, the spirit will want to go back to peace. It'll have that longing. And because it has that longing, that tells you that's your natural state. You can't long for something that you've not had, right? We've talked about that before. You can't long for an apple pie if you've never had an apple pie. You can only long for something you know. You know peace. It is your natural state. A soul at peace is in a state of wholeness. A soul at peace it suddenly becomes alive, right? Peace is a very vibrant living state. Peace is not dreamy and kind of floaty and I'm sleeping. Peace can be a completely alert state. A state of real comfort, alertness, kindness, happiness. They're all connected. Contentment comes with peace. Appreciation comes out of peace. Gratitude comes out of peace. So it's your natural state. So once you've recognized what's going on and you've stepped away, the spirit will begin to heal immediately. Unless your mind goes and gets the harming thoughts and brings them in, right? To have peace, you have to have a mind that's holding thoughts of peace. So it's one thing to step away from the actual physical situation, but you have to step away from the thoughts and the memories that are distressing the spirit. Otherwise, the spirit can't heal. It's like re-injuring it again and again. It's like closing your finger in the door again and again. It's re-traumatizing the spirit. So what does your meditation practice do? Your meditation practice teaches you how to locate yourself in your natural qualities, your natural state. The first one is peace. You learn how to locate peace. Now, some people make the mistake of thinking that the way that they get peace in their meditation practice is that they look online for a guided meditation and they play it. Nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with doing that, except that that can't be all you're doing, right? It's like training wheels. When you learn to ride a bike, your father may have put training wheels on your bike and you went pedaling down the sidewalk, but at some point you took the training wheels off, right? You didn't ride your whole childhood with training wheels on, right? You took them off and you pedaled along. That's what a guided meditation is. It's a training wheel. It's to get you started. It's to get you set in a certain way. But when the guided meditation stops, you don't get up, put out the candle and go on. No, you stay there. And you hold the state that the meditation helped you to create. You're showing your mind how to create thoughts of peace, how to create and how to sustain thoughts of peace. Right? So first is recognize, oh my gosh, I'm constantly worried. Second is give yourself some space, step away. And third is begin to invoke these inner qualities, this inner state that allows the soul to heal. Now, this invocation, you're invoking something that is already inside of you. The guided meditation may be outside of you, but the quality of peace is inside of you. It belongs to you. You are peace. That's why we say Om Shanti. Om, I am a soul. Shanti, peace. It is your nature. So when you're invoking this state with your meditation, you're pulling it from inside of you. It's already in there. You're dusting it off. You're getting the worry, the fear, the anxiety, etc., the sorrow out of the way so that this inner state can emerge. And hopefully you're extending your practice a little bit each day, right? You start at 5 or 6 minutes and you go to 10 or 11 minutes and maybe eventually you get to 15, and if you can manage it, maybe you get to 30, because once you become someone who can invoke the state of peace, that's a kind of mastery. And then you realize, okay, I can do this when I'm by myself. But the next step is, can I do this when I'm in a peaceless situation? Can I do this when someone just said something rude? Can I do this when something bad just happened down the hall? The answer is yes, you can. You can do that because you've been practicing. So something happens, your mind goes to peace. And you hold that peace. Now, what happens in a situation where everyone around you is peaceless and you are peaceful? If you can imagine such a state, I'm telling you it's possible. You're going to have to believe me. So let's just imagine that you're in a peaceless situation. People are yelling or something bad happened, and you, because you've been practicing, are holding this state of peace. So what happens? What happens? What happens is that the people around you become peaceful. Gradually, the vibrations you're putting out create peace around you. Even if you don't open your mouth, even if you don't say, okay, everybody, let's quiet down, let's get rid of the noise here. You don't need to do that. You're just holding that peace. Thoughts of peace have a vibration. Those vibrations go together to make a field of peace. That's what a healer is, right? When you're serving like that, you're serving to heal. Yourself first, and then the people around you. Now, there's one more step. This one is optional. The others are required. So you have to recognize, you have to step back, you have to invoke thoughts of peace, and you will naturally serve from that state. Those are all necessary, right? If you're going to use meditation or medication. In this case, we're talking about using a meditation of peace to heal a spiritual malady of peacelessness, discomfort, anguish, sorrow, etc. The final thing is the thing that really takes you beyond everything else and everyone else. And that is that when you are able to do this, when you're able to maintain that state, when you're able to invoke and hold that state, you now are about this far from the source, from the one above, from the Supreme Soul, your Father, God, whatever you call that one. I know a lot of people don't know what to do with that. They think it's an idea. God is not an idea. God's not a belief. The Supreme Soul is the source energy of life. And it's completely possible for you, when you're in a state where you're aware of yourself as a spirit, to make that connection. Completely possible. That's what Raj Yoga is about. When you can do that, you go from being a bit limited, which is that I can pull on what I have, I can share that, to being unlimited. Because the Supreme Soul is the source of all virtue, all qualities, all positive qualities. So that's endless peace. That's an ocean of peace. So that would be your fifth and completely optional and completely necessary step. Necessary if you really want to change yourself, because once you can do that, once you can connect as the soul to the Supreme Source, that's called transformation. That's when you literally become what you once were, no matter what's going on in the world. This is when you become, you could say you become an angel. There's lots of names for it. You become an elevated soul. You become someone who is able to pull on the source energy, draw it down, and share it. Fill oneself with it and bestow it around you. It allows you to be merciful. It allows you to be compassionate. It allows you to be sympathetic. It allows you to serve. It allows you to remain whole. And a final thought, because we're doing this experiment tonight where we're going to hand off to the meditation center, to Sister Rona. When you are able to keep that connection, to sustain that connection, then you're able to go through anything that's going on in the physical world. No matter how, sometimes we worry about the physical world. How are we going to manage? We've got this problem, this crisis, that crisis. And it pulls our attention, right? It pulls us out towards it. It makes us peaceless. But when you learn to do this, which is where your meditation practice should take you, you'll be able to be in those hard places, but you'll be there as a server. So you'll be there in a state of peace. You'll be there in your wholeness. You'll be there serving everyone around you. And people will want to have you around because you'll be the one with the medicine, the spiritual medicine. So let me stop here because we're at 7 o'clock, and I'm going to hand off to the Meditation Center, Manhattan Meditation Center. I can take a quick question if someone has one. Otherwise, we'll just move to this next part. Anyone have something that feels important?
Maybe a comment, Sister Judy. Where are those 80% who are resilient? Because we don't come across.
We're not seeing it. Well, I would just say to you that what I find is we don't know what people can do until they're in those situations. I've seen people get up from things that I thought they'd never get up from. Things that are so hard and so personally troubling. And I've seen them stand up and not only help themselves, but help others. And I know you've seen that too. It's a wonder when that happens. And sometimes we're surprised at who is able to do that. So I would just say, yeah, you have to trust that people actually have that power in them, and support that with your own faith and your own love and all that. So hello, Sister Rona.
Hello, everyone, and hello.
So I'm going to
thank you very much for this enlightening sharing. We are here in person with a little group and of course on Zoom. So the thought was now to practice those steps.
Good.
Is that okay?
It's fine with me. I'm going to step away. It's been lovely to be with you.
That is your first step in meditation.
Exactly.
To step away. Okay, well, at this moment in time, is there any thought or any question or comment on what Sister Judy has shared so far? Silence. Yeah, Varsha, go ahead. You will have to unmute. Yeah, Varsha, go ahead. You will have to unmute.
Are you on every Thursday with the same link?
Varsha, go ahead. You will have to unmute.
Are you on every Thursday with the same link?
Varsha, go ahead. You will have to unmute. Someone unmute.
We are having an echo.
No,
not sure.
Someone has to mute. Manjula has to mute. Or you, Anita, can you please mute? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Varsha.
Yeah. Sister, how could we get link? I mean, we want to re-listen this. Is there any way we can get that in our email?
The link?
Recordings. I think Varsha is asking about recordings. Recordings of all these talks are available on our YouTube channel. I'll post the link in the chat. Please copy it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any question or thought about the content of the talk so far?
I have a comment. Of course, it is difficult to express because it was so beautiful. Every word is like a little jewel and goes right through the core.
Very good. Anyone else or anyone here want to say anything? Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it was super helpful. I'm still listening to guided meditation. So coming away from that, one thing I'm going to start practicing is how to do meditations on my own. So I just wanted to thank Sister Judy again.
Nothing wrong, no, with guided meditations. She was saying that also, but that is just to help us. It is like a tool, and you use the tools, but ultimately you have to do that meditation for yourself and hold that space within. Let's do some practice together, because we can talk a lot about the meditation, and we can talk a lot that the meditation is healing and is like medicine for the soul. But let us try and experiment and experience. Then she gave few simple pointers. And so step away is the first. What does that mean, to step away? Because you can physically remove yourself from things, but this is an inner process. So stepping away means you withdraw your attention from whatever you have been thinking the whole day, whatever you is in front of you, you as if withdraw your attention from anything external. And you become like that observer, you become aware that there is this consciousness, that there is this invisible experiencer, the observer, the real you. And you focus as if your attention on the real self, the being of consciousness, instead of thinking about what is it, my boss, the work, or the traffic, or other people, or whatever the situation must be. You shift your attention away from the external and become aware of the self as this inner being, this being of consciousness. And a very nice, simple image that helps to focus is like light, a star. So let's do this first step. And I will guide, and then you just try and hold those thoughts for yourself and allow those thoughts to, as if, what is the word, be held in your mind. And just observe what happens when you do that. Okay, so we use this power of focus, of concentration, and we choose to consciously shift our attention away from everyday activity. And some thoughts may pop up, my lunch and person and what I may do tomorrow and the news. And you say, okay, all of that is there. But as if you turn your attention away from that. And acknowledge that the one who is experiencing everything, the one who is experiencing this body, is the inner being, invisible, living light. A spiritual being. Situations come and go, people come and go, events happen and they pass. that you were the one who is experiencing all of that. The soul, the being of light, the constant factor, the essence. Living light. Serene and innately peaceful. And you may observe that other thoughts pop up, and you just say, interesting, but not interested at this moment. And you return to that awareness of the self as this invisible observer, invisible experiencer, the living light. And try and catch that stillness and peace. That innate nature of self, and just hold it for a minute or two in the mind. Thank you. This was just like the first part of what Sister Judy was explaining. You as if step away, you shift your attention away, and you become aware of the inner being, the spirit, the soul, and you try and get in touch with that innate nature. Now, Judy was explaining, now originally the innate nature, the original nature of everyone is peace. We long for peace because that is part of who we innately are. Now, why is that? How do you know? And how do you come to a state of peace? If we are peaceful innately, why are we not experiencing peace? Anyone has an idea? What is required to be peaceful? You don't know? Someone is saying because the time the world is in, the situations the world is in, everyone is disturbed. But we are trying to be meditative. So how can we, even though there are all these upheavals going on, all kinds of situations going on, what is required to still be peaceful? Observer
I
might
think you said it. I think you said it. We have to be able to step away.
You have to be able to
We have to be able to leave all the physical stuff where it is and just be able to look at ourselves and know that we are souls.
Very
and
good.
get in touch with that.
Yeah.
And
Go.
we can have a peaceful time of varying in length, I guess, but in most, if not all, situations.
One key factor to experience your peace is to is feeling secure. When you are secure, when you feel secure, peace is natural. Even love, we can only truly love when we feel secure. We can only really be happy when we feel secure. So how can we be secure if we live in a world that sometimes appears to have gone mad? How can we feel secure? This is where the clue is of meditation. To feel secure. Now, to feel secure, one big aspect is to realize and to deeply experience and have that conviction that we are souls and that we are imperishable beings, immortal beings, invisible beings of consciousness, and that this body is a temporary vehicle. And whatever happens around us, it is the play of karmas, it is the balancing forces of nature. Everything will come back to a equilibrium, a balanced state. But we are eternal beings, spiritual beings. And so more, because with that feeling of loss, that feeling of how to say, insecure, comes from a sense of losing or fear of death. All those things bring insecurity. Whilst if we know ourselves as spiritual beings, travelers, visitors here, immortal beings, and that whatever we see in the world, these are forces to bring back a certain balance. That there was a time that this world was also in peace. But people have moved into peacelessness and ignorance. That is why this whole turmoil is going on. And it has to settle down again when we settle down inside. But no one truly dies. And so more we, more we reflect on that, more we experience that timeless state, a deeper sense of security settles in, and peace comes from that. So, but the body is not immortal. Body will come to has a beginning and an end, but the soul, the real self, is timeless. So that is one big factor when you start to experience, and with that deeper sense of conviction, begin to be aware that the journey goes on. Timelessness and eternity, when you get a feel of that, peace comes in. So let's take that as a next step. When there is no fear, what do you feel? When you have no worries, how do you feel? Peace. When there is the feeling, I can't lose anything, you will feel peace. Now, how come you cannot lose anything?
Because you don't own anything.
Because you don't truly own anything. Even this body, is it truly yours? This body is what is it? It's entrusted to you, and it is given to you on loan from nature. You're using it. It is entrusted to you, but you don't own. And what we don't own, we cannot lose, because it wasn't mine. And what truly is yours is your qualities as a soul, your potential as a soul, that you can never lose. So let us reflect on it and try to grasp that peace that comes from that sense of eternity, and capture that feeling of immortal and no needs, and cannot lose anything ever. Okay, so again, for a few moments, and allow the body also to be comfortable, relaxed. No need to create some tension or some and shift the attention away, as if step away from all the mundane things and everyday activities, and interaction, and as if become aware of the self as this experiencer who's like a traveler going through life, experiencing this body and bodily sensations, experiencing whatever happens. But you shift your attention to that inner being, invisible, but you become aware, like an observer, one who is creating thoughts and having feelings and emotions. And we use the image of light, tiny star, and this living light, the real self, operating from behind the eyes in the center of the forehead. And just hold this awareness. Tiny living light, a timeless, invisible being of consciousness. pure light. Matter is perishable. But the spirit, the soul, the real self has no beginning and no end. And we souls, we need nothing to exist. Body may need water and food and shelter, but soul needs nothing. Timeless, living light. Innately divine. Pure, peaceful light. And the soul is a child of the Supreme. And in this space, more we are tuned in, more we are aware, we can perceive the presence of the Supreme, one who is like an ocean of peace, ever peaceful, an ocean of stillness. And more my mind is tuned into that, it reinforces feelings of peace and stillness in the self. And just try and hold this peace in the mind. And build on these thoughts. And if you observe that thoughts get dispersed or distracted, or all kinds of situations pop up in the mind, use these steps and use this power of thought to invoke again this state of stillness and eternity and timelessness and peace. Thank you. Just a few final thoughts because time has already passed. Meditation as medication. The understanding is that our physical condition is very closely connected with our mental state and our mental condition. Just some dog has to bark and show his teeth, and you are fearful, and you notice how the body reacts to these feelings of fear and these thoughts of fear. So what we think and what goes on in our mind, it influences the body and the bodily reactions. So it is very unrealistic to think that if there is physical ill health, that has nothing to do with the mind. That mind doesn't influence that, or that the body doesn't influence. There is a deep connection. And so if we only address the physical issues but never address the mind, something is missing. And maybe that is why illness continues to increase all over, because it is not properly addressed. And so the whole spiritual approach is to bring back that focus, this mind, which is like a missing link in health and healthcare. And we need to come back to a healthy state of mind. And the medicine for that is meditation and spiritual knowledge. And of course, this peace, one thing is to hold this peace of mind when you're in an environment of peace where you can withdraw, but then also to shift your perspective on life and see life as as an extra experience. And in that experience, there may be comedy, there may be party, there may be a conflict, all different variety of experiences. But the soul moves on and travels on. Eternal being on a journey, coming from that soul world, belonging to God, traveling, and at some stage we'll go back. So play with these spiritual thoughts, but to have real healing and become whole again, where also the body comes back to a state of health, but also the inner being. We need to pay attention to that also. And nothing wrong with going to the doctor if there is something wrong with the body. By all means, do what is required. But know that there are deeper factors that need to be addressed also if we want to come back to a state of wholeness and health, total health. Time flies, and so we only had 2 practices, but I would invite you to experiment and practice more and give yourself at least 2 times a day a dose of this medicine. It doesn't cost anything. You don't need to be insured for this. Only thing you need is courage and little bit of discipline. Okay. Om Shanti, and have a good night or day, depending on where you're connecting from. Bye-bye.
Om Shanti. Thank you.